The ground shook beneath the ruined city. Explosions painted the alien sky with red fire. Smoke rose like dark clouds that covered the stars. Among the chaos, one human stood where no one else dared to stay. Commander Raiden Hale, last soldier of the Earth Defense Unit, held his ground. He had sworn an oath to protect the alien princess Lysera, even if it cost his life. Now, surrounded by enemies from every side, that promise was about to be tested. Alien drones moved like silver insects in the sky, their weapons glowing blue. The screams of fallen warriors echoed through broken walls. Raiden's armor was cracked, his rifle half melted, but his eyes still burned with fire. The princess was behind him, hiding inside a fallen transport ship. Her hands shook as she tried to restart the broken shields. "Commander, we must retreat," she cried. Her voice trembling with fear. Raiden shook his head slowly, his breathing heavy inside the helmet. "If we fall back, they'll reach the evacuation tunnel," he said, "and your people die." He stepped forward, the ground glowing under his boots as he powered up his last energy cell. He knew the battle was lost, but he would not let them take her. Not while he still drew breath. The enemy army advanced. Thousands of metallic soldiers. Their leader, a tall figure with glowing eyes, stepped forward. "Human, surrender the princess," the voice thundered through the dust. "Your kind has no place in this war." Raiden's hand tightened on his rifle. "You're right," he said, voice calm. "We don't belong here." He aimed at the sky, fired, and brought down a collapsing ship right over the enemy's path. The explosion tore the valley apart. Flames and debris rained down like stars falling from heaven. Lysera screamed as the shockwave threw her backward. When the fire cleared, Raiden was gone from her sight. But he wasn't dead, not yet. His armor systems were failing, showing red lights everywhere. He crawled across the burning ground, his vision fading. In the distance, he saw her, the Princess Gano, still alive. Crying his name, he forced his body to move, each step heavier than the last, each breath a war of its own behind him. The alien leader rose from the fire, half of his face burned, his metal armor cracked. "You cannot win." "Human," he hissed. Raiden turned, blood dripping from his mouth. "Maybe not," he whispered, "but I can make sure you lose." He pressed a code on his wrist. A blue light spread through the battlefield. The old Terran war beacon activated, a forgotten weapon left by Earth soldiers long ago. It began charging, pulling energy from the ruins. The alien army froze, realizing too late what he had done. Raiden smiled weakly. "For Earth," he said. And for her, the explosion was like the birth of a sun. It tore through the sky, shattering towers and ships alike. When the light faded, silence fell over the battlefield. Nothing moved. No sound but the soft hum of the wind. In the middle of the crater, the alien princess crawled toward the smoking ground. Her body weak, her heart breaking, she found what was left of his armor. The symbol of Earth burned into the metal. Her hands trembled as she touched it. Tears fell down her pale cheeks. "Why did you do this for me?" she whispered. Her voice broke in the empty silence. No one answered. Only the wind carried her cry above her. Ships from her mother's empire arrived. The queen herself stepped down from her vessel, her silver crown shining under the strange sky. Her cold eyes looked at the battlefield, at the destruction caused by one human. "This man," she said softly, "defied an empire." The soldiers bowed. No one dared to speak. The queen turned toward her daughter. "You loved him," she said quietly. "Didn't you?" Lysera didn't answer. Her tears said enough. "Then his name will not be forgotten," the queen whispered. "But his story isn't over," she added, her tone darkening. "We will bring him back." Her command echoed across the empire. The scientists and soldiers around her looked up in shock. "But your majesty," one of them said, "the human is gone. Nothing remains." The queen's gaze turned sharp as steel. "Find his remains," she ordered. "Whatever it takes, whatever it costs. Bring Commander Raiden Hale back to me." Lightning flashed across the alien sky. The storm raged over the ruins of war, and somewhere deep in the silence of the wreckage, a small blue light blinked inside the broken armor, the last signal of a human heart that refused to stop. The war might have ended, but his story had just begun. Weeks passed since the great explosion. The war ended, but the galaxy did not feel peace. The alien empire had won, yet the cost had shaken every world under their flag. Whispers spread across the stars. A human soldier who had destroyed an army and vanished in fire. Some called him a monster, others called him a hero. But in the royal palace, the queen called him something else. She called him a mystery. Deep inside the Imperial Research Citadel, a team of scientists worked day and night. They had found fragments of his armor, burned but still alive with strange energy. Inside the metal, something pulsed. Slow, steady, human. One scientist stared at the readings in disbelief. "Your Majesty," she said softly. "His heart is still active." The queen turned from the glass window, her eyes glowing in the reflection. "Then he is not dead," she whispered. The Princess Lysera stood beside her mother, her hands clenched. "Mother, you must let him rest," she pleaded. "He gave his life for me. He deserves peace." The queen shook her head slowly. "You still do not understand what he was," she said. "That human carried power that should not exist if we can unlock it. We can control every battlefield in this galaxy." Lysera stepped back, her voice trembling. "You want to use him," she said. "He was a soldier, not a weapon." The queen's eyes softened for a moment, then hardened again. "Every hero is a weapon to someone," she replied. Inside the lab, the scientists connected cables to a glowing capsule. Inside it, Raiden's body floated, covered in energy veins of blue light. His eyes were closed, his chest unmoving, but the machines around him whispered with strange rhythm. "His DNA is rewriting itself," one of the researchers said. "He's adapting." No one understood what it meant. No human body had ever survived exposure to a Terran war beacon before. Late at night, when the queen left the lab, Lysera stayed behind. She stood near the capsule, her reflection dancing over the glass. "Raiden," she whispered, "can you hear me?" Her voice trembled. "They won't let you rest, but I won't let them use you." A tear rolled down her cheek and fell onto the glass. The machines flickered. Lights blinked faster. Inside the capsule, a finger twitched. She gasped and stepped back, her heart pounding. "Impossible," she whispered. The scientist ran in, alarms ringing across the room. "Energy spike detected," one shouted. "Something's reacting to emotional frequency," another yelled. The queen returned at once, her cloak flowing behind her like smoke. "What happened?" she demanded. "His vitals spiked when the princess spoke," a scientist said. The queen's face froze, then slowly turned toward her daughter. "Your voice woke him," she said quietly. "That means his consciousness is bound to you." The queen's words sent chills down the room. "If he can be awakened by her," she continued, "then he can be controlled by her." Lysera's eyes widened. "No, you can't," she said. "He's not a weapon to control." But the queen's voice turned cold. "He is no longer a man, he is property of the Empire." The next day, the lab was sealed, guarded by soldiers in black armor. The princess was forbidden to enter. Still, every night she came in secret, touching the walls, whispering through the glass, and every night, the lights inside the capsule pulsed in answer, slowly, like a heartbeat remembering its rhythm. Across the Empire, strange signals began to appear. Old Terran machines buried for centuries started to activate on distant planets. Beacon towers lit up in forgotten ruins, no one knew why. But the signals all pointed to one place, the Imperial Citadel. It was as if the human soul was calling to something ancient, something that still slept beneath the stars. In the queen's chamber, an advisor approached in fear. "Your Majesty," he said, "we've detected multiple Terran beacons waking across the outer colonies." The queen stood silent for a moment, her mind racing, then she smiled faintly. A dangerous kind of smile. "So," she whispered, "his war isn't over yet." In the lab, the capsule glowed brighter than ever. Inside, Raiden's fingers moved again. His breathing returned, faint but real. His eyes opened for a moment, silver light reflecting in them. But they weren't human anymore. They were something beyond, half human, half something the universe had never seen before. Lysera felt it across the stars. In her sleep, she heard his voice, soft but clear. "Lysera, they're coming." She woke, gasping for air, her heart racing. Outside her window, the night sky burned with a faint blue light, the same color as his eyes, the same color as the storm that once ended a war. The night over the Imperial City was silent, but deep below its shining towers, inside a secret chamber, machines hummed with strange rhythm. In the center stood a glass capsule, glowing with pale blue light inside it. Commander Raiden Hale floated, caught between life and death. His heart beat once every few seconds, slow but heavy. Each pulse sent waves of energy through the cables around him. The scientists whispered in fear. "His vitals keep rising," one said. We can't stabilize him. The Queen watched from behind a glass wall, her expression calm but her eyes sharp. Do not stop the process, she said. If he lives, he will serve the Empire. But something deep inside her voice trembled. Even she wasn't sure what they had awakened. Suddenly, the energy in the room surged. Lights flickered, alarms screamed. A shockwave burst from the capsule, throwing the scientist to the floor. Glass shattered, steam filled the chamber. And when the smoke cleared, the capsule was empty, Raiden was gone. A guard shouted, "Containment breach." But before anyone could move, the lights cut out in the darkness. Heavy footsteps echoed slowly. Metal groaned, and a broken voice spoke through the static. "Where am I?" The emergency lights flickered back on. Raiden stood in the center of the room. Steam rising from his armor. His skin glowed faintly blue, his eyes bright silver like twin moons. His wounds were gone, his armor alive with energy. He looked around, confused, lost, breathing hard. The soldiers aimed their weapons. "Stand down," shouted the commander. But Raiden didn't move. He looked at his hands, then at the terrified faces before him. "What did you do to me?" he asked quietly. His voice didn't sound human anymore. The Queen stepped forward, her guards trembling beside her. "You were dead," she said, "but we brought you back." Raiden's eyes locked on hers. "Why?" he asked. "Because," she said slowly, "you belong to the Empire now." The lights around him pulsed faster. Something inside him reacted to her words. He felt pain, burning, twisting, energy screaming inside his veins. He fell to his knees, clutching his chest. The machines around him overloaded and exploded in showers of sparks. The scientist ran for cover. The Queen raised her hand. "Do not shoot," she commanded. But the guards panicked. One fired when a single plasma bolt hit Raiden's shoulder. The energy absorbed into his body and vanished. Then he raised his head, his eyes glowing brighter than before, and the air around him turned to fire. A wave of blue light swept through the room. Every weapon melted, every circuit died. The soldiers were thrown backward, unconscious. Raiden stood up slowly, smoke swirling around him. He looked at the Queen again. "I don't belong to anyone," he said. Then the ceiling above cracked and collapsed as he launched himself upward, through walls, through steel, through night, until he broke free under the open sky. The people of the capital looked up in terror. A streak of blue fire shot across the heavens, screaming like thunder. "Something's escaping from the citadel," shouted the city watch. But no ship could match his speed. He was no longer bound by human limits. He was something new, something unstoppable. Far away in her chamber, Princess Lysera felt it, the same pulse she'd heard in her dreams. She ran to the balcony, her heart racing. There he was, falling through the clouds like a burning star. She called his name, her voice breaking the silence. He crashed into the royal gardens, carving a crater into the stone. She ran to him through smoke and dust. "Raiden!" she cried, kneeling beside him. His breathing was rough, his eyes half open. "Lysera," he whispered, "you shouldn't be here." She smiled through tears. "You came back," he shook his head weakly. "No, I was never gone." Guards surrounded them, shouting orders. Lysera spread her arms, blocking their view. "Don't touch him," she yelled. The Queen arrived moments later, her eyes blazing. "Stand down," she said. "I will handle this." She looked at Raiden, now kneeling on one knee, his body trembling with power. "Do you understand what you are?" she asked. Raiden looked up, voice steady. "I'm human," he said, "and that's something your empire will never control." The Queen smiled, not with kindness, but with curiosity. "Then show me," she whispered. "Show me the power that defeated my army." Raiden stood tall, light rippling around him like a storm. "Be careful what you ask for," he said, and the sky above the palace roared. Lightning fell from nowhere. The ground cracked beneath their feet. Every sensor, every machine across the empire went silent, because one human heart had awakened, and the universe was listening. Somewhere deep in space, ancient Terran satellites stirred. Old war machines powered up after centuries of silence. Their scanners locked on the signal from the capital. A voice echoed through the void, old yet alive. "Commander Hale, confirmed. The Vanguard protocol, that online." The Queen looked at the sky as the stars began to move. She realized too late. The human they tried to resurrect had reconnected the forgotten fleet of Earth. And now it was coming home. Lysera took Raiden's hand as the thunder grew louder. What happens now? She whispered. Raiden looked at the horizon where blue light rose like dawn. Now, he said quietly, the real war begins. The Empire once stretched across 1,000 stars. Its cities glowed brighter than suns, its fleets ruled the void, but now, every world under its flag watched the sky in silence. Something ancient was coming, something that even their history had forgotten. It began with a whisper, an energy wave across space. Then the message came through the royal network. Terran Vanguard signal detected in the palace. Alarms rang like thunder. The queen stood before her generals, her face pale but proud. Is it true? She asked. Has the human signal been confirmed? A general nodded, his voice shaking. Yes, Your Majesty. The coordinates match the old Terran war codes. The queen clenched her fists. Impossible, she said. Earth was ashes long before our birth. But deep down, she already knew the truth. That human, Raiden Hale, had awakened something her empire could not control. Across the empire, ancient satellites began to power up. Old human war machines hidden in asteroid fields came alive. Massive ships, dark, silent, and scarred by time, turned toward the alien capital. They carried no pilots, no living crew, only one command written in their cores: protect humanity. The alien scientists tried to shut down the signal. They fired pulses, sent virus codes, blocked channels. Nothing worked. The signal grew stronger, echoing through every system connected to the human's body. Raiden sat in the royal garden, eyes closed, breathing slow. He could feel them, the Terran fleet like distant hearts beating in sync with his own. They weren't just machines, they were memories, pieces of a lost species that refused to die. Princess Lysera stood beside him. What are they? She asked softly. They're what's left of us, Raiden said quietly. What we built before your kind ruled the stars. Will they attack? She asked. Her voice trembling, Raiden opened his eyes, silver light flashing in them. They will defend me if I'm threatened. They will destroy everything if I fall. Inside the War Council, the Queen faced chaos. Her generals shouted for action. Deploy the fleets, one cried. Evacuate the core worlds, said another. The Queen slammed her hand on the table. Silence, she commanded. Her voice echoed across the chamber. We will not run from a ghost. But even as she spoke, she felt a tremor beneath her feet. The old halls of the Citadel shook as the human fleet entered orbit. From the skies, the first Terran ship appeared, enormous. Black and alive with blue energy, it blocked the sun, casting a shadow across the entire capital. People fell to their knees, thinking the gods had returned. The Queen stepped onto her balcony, staring at the sky, her breath caught as she whispered, This is the power of one man, down below. Raiden walked through the royal garden with Lysera. Soldiers followed him, unsure if they were guarding him or being watched by him. He stopped and looked at the horizon. Your mother will try to destroy me, he said. Lysera shook her head. She won't, she knows what you can do. Raiden smiled faintly. That's why she will. Moments later, the palace shook again. Anti-orbital cannons turned toward the sky, firing beams of light at the Terran fleet. The beams hit and vanished. The human ships didn't fire back. They simply absorbed the energy. Growing brighter, the sky burned blue. The ground trembled, and then a single ship spoke. Its voice deep and mechanical. Commander Hale, standing orders active. Awaiting your command. Raiden froze. He hadn't expected to hear that voice again. It was the voice of Earth's last AI, the Sentinel Core. He looked up at the sky. This is wrong, he whispered. You should be gone. The AI replied, humanity never ends and it waits. The Queen watched from her balcony. Realizing the truth, the empire she ruled for centuries could not stop what was coming. Fear crept into her heart for the first time. Call off the attack, she said softly. Her general looked at her, shocked. But Majesty, I said stop, she shouted. If we fire again, it will be our end, down below. Raiden knelt on one knee. His hand touched the ground, feeling the pulse of the world beneath. He closed his eyes, whispering, stand down. Old friends, in the sky, the human fleet shifted formation. The lights dimmed, the weapons powered down. The people of the Empire watched in awe as the storm of ships began to orbit peacefully. It was like seeing gods take a breath and fall silent. The Queen came down to meet him herself. Surrounded by her guards, she faced the man she once tried to control. You hold power beyond imagination, she said. You could end us, yet you show mercy. Raiden looked at her. his expression calm but cold. "Mercy is what makes us human," he said. "But don't test how far it goes." The Queen lowered her gaze. For the first time she bowed her head. "Then tell me." "Human," she said, "what do you want?" Raiden turned his eyes toward the horizon. "I want peace," he said quietly, "but peace doesn't come without truth." He looked back at her. "And I want to know what your empire did to Earth." Silence fell over the garden. The Queen's face changed, her eyes darkened. She took a deep breath. "There are things buried deeper than your graves, Commander," she said slowly. "Truths that could burn the stars." Raiden stepped closer, his voice calm but sharp. "Then let's burn them." Lightning cracked across the sky. The fleet above shifted again, as if the universe itself had heard his words. The Queen turned away, her voice low. "Then you'll see what even gods fear." And as she walked back toward the palace, a new shadow moved across the stars, something older than both their races, something that had been waiting for this moment. The stars burned brighter than ever, but behind their light, something moved, and slow, ancient, alive. It had waited for ages beyond counting, and now the awakening of the human fleet had broken its sleep. The galaxy trembled as if it remembered a nightmare. Raiden stood at the edge of the royal balcony, looking at the endless sky. The Terran ships hovered in silence, loyal, patient, waiting for his word. But beneath them, sensors began to scream. The energy wave came from the dark between galaxies. "Another fleet," a soldier cried. "No," Raiden said quietly. "It's not a fleet. It's something worse." The Queen entered beside him, her face pale, her crown trembling in her hands. "Our ancestors called them the Voidborn," she whispered. "They devour stars, they erased entire civilizations. That is why we built empires, to hide from them." Raiden turned toward her, his voice calm but heavy. "And your people destroyed Earth because you feared we'd wake them." The Queen closed her eyes. "Ashamed." "Yes," she said. "Your world refused to bow. So we silenced it before it could call the void," Lysera gasped, tears filling her eyes. "You killed his people to save yourselves," she cried. The Queen looked at her daughter. "I saved this galaxy," she said softly, but her voice broke on the last word. The sky turned black, every star blinked out one by one, and from the endless dark a shadow emerged, vast as a planet. Its surface writhed with moving lights. The air vibrated with a low sound. "Like a heartbeat made of thunder," the Queen whispered. "They've come across the Empire." Panic spread. Fleets launched into the sky, weapons fired, but every blast was swallowed by darkness. Ships vanished without sound. Even the Terran vanguard shook as energy drained from its hulls. Raiden gritted his teeth. "They feed on power," he said. "They'll drain this galaxy dry." He turned to Lysera, his voice steady. "If this is humanity's fault, then I'll fix it." Lysera grabbed his hand. "You can't fight that," she said. Raiden smiled faintly. "I already did once." He raised his hand toward the sky. The Terran fleet responded instantly. Thousands of blue lights aligned above the capital. "Vanguard Protocol and Formation Omega," he commanded. The AI's voice echoed through the clouds. "Acknowledged. Commander Hale." Energy surged through the heavens. The Terran ships linked together, forming a wall of light. The Voidborn screamed, a sound that shattered mountains. Their black tendrils reached toward the planet. Raiden's eyes glowed brighter. "Focus all power through me," he said. The AI hesitated. "That will destroy your physical form." Raiden smiled. "Then I'll finally earn my rest," Lysera cried out. "No, Raiden, please." He touched her face gently. "Tell your people," he whispered, "that humans were not gods. We were just stubborn enough to keep standing when gods fell." The Queen stepped forward, her eyes wet. "Commander," she said softly, "if you do this, know that the Empire will remember, not as our weapon but as our savior." Raiden nodded once. "Then make sure they never forget what mercy looks like." The light around him grew so bright that the palace walls cracked. He rose slowly into the air. Blue lightning covered his armor, his body becoming pure energy. The Terran ships turned toward him, feeding their power into his form. The sky turned white, and with one last breath he whispered, "For Earth, for her, for every voice that still believes." The explosion that followed was beyond sound or sight. It tore through the dark like dawn breaking across eternity. The Voidborn screamed and vanished, their shadows burned away by the light of one human heart, and then silence returned when the dust settled. The Queen and Lysera looked to the heavens. The Terran fleet was gone. Only fragments of glowing metal drifted like stars. Lysera fell to her knees, tears streaming down her face. "He's gone," she whispered. The Queen placed a hand on her shoulder. "No," she said softly. "He's free." Years passed. The Empire changed, the wars ended. Statues of a human soldier stood in every city, and the Queen's final decree was written in every hall. Humanity was not conquered, and it was remembered. One night, Lysera stood alone under the same stars. The wind brushed her face. She looked up and smiled. Far beyond the galaxy's edge, a single blue light flickered in the dark. Like a heartbeat, still waiting, still watching, still human.